Oh my gosh, you need to read Assassin's Apprentice, book 1 of the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb. This is not a review to keep you in suspense of whether I like it or not. This is me trying to convince you to do yourself some justice and pick it up. Should this be given a lot of the credit that's given to George R. R. Martin? Yes. Has this got one of the best character casts of all time? Yes. Is it one of the most heartbreaking books of all time? Yes. But also, is it one of the most heartwarming books of all time? Yes. What more can you ask for in any genre? And fantasy is one of the very best, and it's one that transcends the genre, and you should pick it up no matter what your reading tastes are. Hello and welcome, I'm Will, and as you've already heard, I will be reviewing Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. A little bit of the personal history for me. I read the Farseer Trilogy, the Tawny Man Trilogy and the Fitz and the Fool Trilogy in 2019, and it was one of the first series that really showed me what literature can do. I fell in love with it, and it has such a special place in my heart, and Robin Hobb is one of my favourite writers of all time. But that meant I was pretty scared diving back in. I intend to read Live Ships this time because I committed sacrilege the first time round and didn't, but I blame Papa Gwynne because the Live Ships was not in his library. And so I've started the reread, and in my memory, Royal Assassin, book 2 of this trilogy, is exceptional, and that's the book I always think of. And so I think Assassin's Apprentice is a bit shadowed because of how good book 2 is. And so I was also quite scared returning, thinking, oh my gosh, this is so pivotal to my formative years, my formative growth as a reader, and I love this series so much. What if it's not as good as I thought it was? Well, I was stupid to doubt because I love it even more than the first time round. I think this series is also made for a reread. It is unreliable narrator told from the perspective of Fitz, who he gets so much wrong, but he's so wonderful. He's a character who he's an outcast. He sees himself as an outsider, and he's got low self-esteem, and he's a tool that others use, basically. And this really reflects into a melancholic tone that permeates throughout Assassin's Apprentice. And it also means that there are many moments that should be mini victories and heartwarming moments and growth for Fitz that he just doesn't see because of his own past. I think Robin Hobb is one of the best writers at really exploring character in a way that also intertwines with plot. And that leads me onto something with Assassin's Apprentice and Farseer as a whole. It's always discussed as a character first series, so if you really want something more plot driven, maybe keep away from it for now. I'm here to offer an unpopular view and say that the plot is also very central to the Farseer Trilogy. Robin Hobb just finds the perfect way to embroil it and intertwine it with the character growth as well. We've got a gradual increase to the stakes as this story continues. It is called Assassin's Apprentice, and it's not your typical assassin fantasy. And so it doesn't fall into a lot of the tropes you expect with that title. We have got Fitz learning some dark arts in the capital of Buckkeep, but it goes against what you expect. It has plot a lot as well, I think. A lot of the key characters are very high up in the social strata, in the hierarchy. You've got the king, you've got princes, you've got their advisors, you've got those who teach magic, all those that are very key players in the realm. And then Fitz is in a place where he can often hear what is going on, and he's often overlooked because he's seen as someone who has no influence and can't do anything, so we can say it in front of him. And so he gets to hear a lot from people who are hiding secrets. And the plot is really intertwined with Fitz growing into his role in this coming of age story, as he's been fashioned into a tool as an agent of the night, basically. And whilst he's learning this, all the political intrigue is unfurling and gradually building. You've got enmities beginning to rise, or that you notice for the first time. You've got friendships forming. You've got alliances on the grander scale, and you've got raiders on the coast, which are destroying this kingdom, basically, and causing this sense of danger and overlooking dread, which also resides throughout this book and the trilogy as a whole. But I've talked about the plot, which is about the political intrigue at court, and there's a lot of scheming going on. But then, of course, whilst I have said the plot is a bigger role than many people talk about, the characters are the heart of this story. It's told from the only POV of Fitz, but the characters surrounding him, Burrich, Verity, Shade, Regal, all of them together are all so strong. Individually, they are just the result of what any author wishes they could do with their main character. Any author would be happy to have one character as complex and as well explored as any character in this series, I'm convinced. And to have a whole cast of them is just hogging, in my opinion. It's just showing off. But I'm glad it is, because it means that every character has a rich history. Their interactions, at first you feel a little confused sometimes with how they're acting with one another, but it always makes sense because of the personal history that you discover later down the line. Robin Hobb doesn't just give you loads of exposition and tell you the entire story from the beginning. She trusts you. She thinks that the reader needs to know this, but you don't need to know everything. And that's where all these little hooks get dropped in only the first few chapters of this story, dragging you along thinking, I want to know the answer to that. And there are so many different aspects like that. There's also incredible character growth. The way that characters are recontextualized, in that Fitz might hate them and then he has a revelation about them and he really likes them. The way that friendships form, but then there's a misunderstanding and they completely change. Not only do you get to see Fitz's perception of characters change, your own perception changes as well. And that is so hard to do. It is a challenge enough to get a reader to hate someone and a character on the page, but to then make them go from hateable to lovable is just extraordinary. It's just having both at the same time. And this isn't the biggest book. The other books do get bigger, but this isn't as big as a lot of epic fantasy that we're used to. And so whilst I say this is epic in some ways, it's not out and out epic fantasy. Usually we are constrained to quite a small setting of the castle. We do kind of leave that area a few times, but mostly it's small in scale in that respect. Also the magic we get, the initial insight into, and some training and some other people, we see what they can do with these powers, but you don't see them let loose on their full scale. This is more really a building up of danger and of tension. It really feels like big climaxes in terms of how important events are to Fitz's own personal life. They aren't events that are going to change the lives of thousands yet. In book one, though, they still feel pretty epic in how certain events are just earthquakes to Fitz's life, and uproot how his life is going and throws him into another direction. But really, overall about the characterization, it is just superior characterization than you will see in most literature. Robin Hobb is known as one of the best character writers out there, and she really has earned that title. And it's really interesting seeing this type of fantasy as well, not from someone who's a key player. They are someone who sees this political thriller, court intrigue-esque book from the perspective of someone who is dispensable. And there is always, because of that, this element of tension that even in the low moments, you feel like something tragic could happen because Fitz is dispensable. And he's not the chosen one, and he's not the heir, and it's not so many of these tropes that we see in other fantasy series, which makes the character indispensable. And it means that everyone's circulating around them. Fitz is on the periphery and he is orbiting the other characters. And I find that really intriguing. Often that can be hard for authors because of the lack of agency those characters have, and it means that it feels like not really much is going on because the character hasn't got an influence. But Robin Hobb finds a way around that, with Fitz slightly moulding how events turn out, with little moments that don't seem that important at the time, but then kind of snowball into something bigger. So overall, I could talk about this book for so long. I think there will be more discussions on this series over on the Brothers Gwynne with my brother Ed, especially when I get to live ships and we can discuss that together. I cannot wait to carry on with this series. I do own 2 editions, and I just ordered a third, the new Illumicrate edition. So yeah, I think it's going to be the book that I have the most copies of, other than Papa Gwynne's, of course, because it would be wrong to have something more than Papa Gwynne's books. But this is just an incredible book, and one that I really recommend to all fantasy readers, because whilst everyone might not be in the mood for it right now, I think if you like it, it's going to become your new obsession. It's going to be what you compare other literature to. It's going to be what you see literature can achieve. It really is that powerful, in my opinion. And book one has some of those moments that really show that. The prose is exceptional, the character development is through the roof, and also the plot really engages me as well. There's so many mysteries that you want to find out more, and a lot of recontextualizations about characters and mini revelations that feel shocking and really surprise you as the reader. It's just brilliant, unique fantasy. And also I think a lot of credit is given to George R. R. Martin for Game of Thrones as having the first really complex characters in fantasy. Of course, I would say he does the political intrigue better, and of course on a far wider scale. There are many things that I prefer about George R. R. Martin's writing. But Robin Hobb released Assassin's Apprentice a year before a Game of Thrones release. This was 1995, 30 years this year, and all the characters have significant flaws and significant virtues in a way which is fully explored. None of them feel like stereotypes, none of them are archetypes. They are all unique, they fall into this world fully crafted. They are exceptional. And yeah, I can't use any other word for that. And so I think a lot of the credit given to George R. R. Martin also needs to be given to Robin Hobb. I'm not saying George R. R. Martin was influenced. See, he worked on the Game of Thrones for years, but I think that the credit should go to both of them because these are two of the biggest series in fantasy, and they're two of the first with really complex characters that I know of. And so yeah, that is my review of Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. One of the best books of all time, and book 2 only gets better. I hope there's a lot of you Hobb lovers out there. Let me know who your favourite characters are, what your favourite moments are, and also let me know if you somehow haven't picked this up yet, and if you will. But thank you so much for listening to my rambling ons. That wasn't the best review. I think it's almost like I love this book so much it makes my thoughts a bit blurry because there's so much I want to talk about. So apologies for that, but hopefully I've shown how passionate I am about this book and how excited I am to be starting this journey in the Farseer once again. As always, thank you so much for watching. Carpe diem.